So a little while ago, I was watching the Y-Files, and he was interviewing some guy whose name I don't remember, but he had slightly longish hair, and he was about 60, or he was like 50 to 60 years old. But he was really around 60, and he was presenting his sort of theories on synchronicity and stuff, and I think he was talking about how he was sort of a scientist, coming from a scientist background, and it made his life a little bit more difficult because he was into like New Age stuff. And I thought, oh, well, that's basically my exact stance, you know? And so, but anyway, so he was talking about how he had been writing down his dream. He was talking about precognitive dreams, and I think maybe that might have even been in the title. It was the Y-Files new thing where he's doing a podcast with people, which I think is more interesting personally than his like produced shows or whatever. But so anyway, he was talking about how since the age of whatever the fuck that I don't remember, he's has a dream journal, right? So I started doing that. And he was also basically saying that he had dreams where he pre-membered is the word he used. Like P-R-E, pre-membered something. So in other words, it's a premonition. And he was kind of like, and if you write down your dreams, it's more likely to happen. Or he implied that. And then as he was saying that, I was like, well, that's not necessarily a good thing. Like, what if you're remembering something, or you're pre-remembering something that's bad or scary? Like, I don't really want to... I don't know in what way that would necessarily be helpful, but either way, I thought the idea was interesting, and I've been trying to do... That's my coffee maker, because I just woke up. So anyway, I've been trying to do... I've been trying to write down my dreams for decades, really, and every time I would do it, I just couldn't keep it up. And this time I've been keeping it up for longer than I ever have, except that I fucking forget to put a pen in the drawer of my table next to my bed, whatever that's called. I want to call it a nightstand, but I don't think that's the right word. So anyway, because when I use a pencil, I can't even see what the fuck I'm writing, because of when you write with a pencil, it's like reflective, and if it's not sharp enough, all it looks like is like weird light reflecting off of the page, and I get really, really frustrated, because usually when you wake up, you're kind of grumpy anyway, because you're either trying to figure out how to go back to sleep, or you need to get up, you know? So anyway, I had a couple dreams last night that I wrote down, and then I thought I would just talk about them in a video, partly because I don't really have any subscribers right now, and it doesn't matter if I talk about something that I wouldn't necessarily want like hundreds of people to know or whatever. Not that it's anything bad, but so I had a dream that I woke up in this apartment. It's like kind of hazy, you know, because I can't remember my dreams that well, you know, although I'm getting a little better at it. And according to Ancestry.com, some people can't remember their dreams. As far as I'm concerned, that's bullshit. But anyway, because they have a scale, like, are you good at remembering your dreams? And I was high on the scale of being able to remember my dream. But I think all of those parameters on there for the genetic traits are a little bit dubious. So anyway, I woke up in an apartment, and I think it was my sister who woke me up, and I was kind of like disoriented. Oh, that was loud. So yeah, I woke up and I was disoriented, and my sister said something to the effect of, I thought it would be okay if we all hung out here. And I realized that there was like a vaguely sort of party atmosphere, which it's like I woke up in the middle of the day or something, and it was nighttime. So I realized that all these people, it was like a very bohemian crowd, like alternative types of people, and they all seemed to like me because they knew my sister. This doesn't really align with anything from real life, except that when she was like young, she was kind of like that type of person, lived in the village and stuff like that, which doesn't really even exist anymore as a thing, as a subculture. So but you can't stop progress. I keep learning, so what are you gonna do? But anyway, so they're kind of lounging around, but they're playing a game too, and I was sort of tacitly invited, and I thought, I don't really want to be here, and but I felt like in a way I was at home because all of these people accepted me, and it was very affirmational in that way, and they were not like the people that live out here, which is the opposite of that. And that doesn't mean that they're stupid or they don't care about art at all. But like I've said, and I'll maintain this, and it's not that I think this is the only place in the country that's like this, but it's extremely conformist where I live in a very boring way. Like I said, like there's this song Respectable Street by XTC, and when you think about a place like that, it's like, okay, but at least they're English, and it's like there's a charm to it, and I don't experience that here, and the ethnicity is just it's not like mine at all, and again I don't even really care, but what I see, a lot of what's around me is like an immigrant mentality. I've talked about, I made a video that kind of went into the algorithm, but it's like an immigrant mentality that I just don't relate to, and they're into it. They love it. They're from Italy. They're from the old country, and it's like, okay, that's nice, but you're not there now. But for some reason it doesn't really get dispensed with. It's too important to them, and that's fine. It's just that it's not my vibe, So in this dream, I was around people that were like sort of vaguely alternative and bohemian types of people, and they all liked me, and I felt really happy about that. But then it got weird, and this was a short little dream, but it was more about the vibe of the thing. But then I realized that, and it was guys and girls, but then I realized that there was a gay guy and there was something like on the floor that indicated some sort of gay activity or something, and I don't really remember what it was. But, and I should say that one of these guys had like extensive body modification. But again, it was a dream, so it didn't really make sense. But like he had a horn coming out of his head, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. In real life, I would just be like, that's gross, something to that effect. But in this atmosphere of different types of people hanging out, it was off-putting to me, but I didn't. It wasn't some sort of like, okay, now I'm leaving. But then I saw some kind of gay stuff on the floor, and realizing that, I didn't want to be around like a Freddie Mercury vibe, So then I left, and I think, my sister was there, and I don't think she really would have been in an environment like this in her real life, except kind of like when she was younger, but even then, probably not where people were like engaging in like some sort of, orgy or orgy adjacent. I don't think she would have, that wouldn't have been her thing. But then again, I don't know. But anyway, then I left, and then somehow I found some other place to like crash, And again, this is sort of like the opposite of my circumstances. I have one place that I can be, and I don't really have friends. In fact, I'm kind of like, that's not quite true, because I do have another place that I can go. It's just not a place that I don't really ever choose to go. And sometimes it's occupied. But anyway, then I found another place, and I woke up I fell asleep, I think. And then I woke up and I realized that I had taken I put a Zin in my mouth. And then I was like, kind of like realizing like, wait, what? It's like a bunch of them like congealed together or something. And I was really grossed out, and I thought, oh, fuck, now I've wasted all this money, because like, now if I take like, so like there's 5 in my mouth, right? Or 4 or 5 or something, again, it's a dream, but like, so I'm thinking like, shit, if I put like 4 of them back and just leave the 1 in, and by the way, I never get up and then put a Zin in my mouth. That's just not something I do. But anyway, but in the dream I did. And so I was like, damn, if I put like 3 or 4 of them back and put it in the little canister thing, it's going to already have touched my mouth. It's going to have germs on it, and it's going to be like wet and gross. And so now I have to basically like, I just wasted like 4 Zins. And then I looked at the little canister next to the bed, and I was like, inside the canister, it looked like there had already been like a congealed group of them, so I was like sort of grossed out by that. And I don't know if this relates to real life, but I was just sort of thinking like, I don't know how much longer I want to do this habit, which is it's so weirdly random. Like we're coming up with technology to replace smoking, and the technology is better for you, but it's like the opposite of smoking, in the sense that when you smoke, you look cool. And when you're using a Zin, you're fumbling, you're trying to hide it, and you hope nobody notices. So it's like the opposite of looking cool. So then there was a part of the dream where I saw Kurt Cobain sort of walking up to somebody that he recognized in like this sort of old Western, like if you're walking into a saloon or something, or vaguely guerrilla-like, gait, in a, meant to be joking, like walking up to this person who I don't remember who the person was, and I don't even remember, like, was it just a vision, or was it like some sort of clip, But so that was just a little part of the dream. And then I had a dream that I started making out with some lady who looked kind of like Jamie Presley. And I think that might be partly because they were talking about her on Twitter and saying something like, oh yeah, I know, she's going to do an OnlyFans. And somehow, again, it's like the way Twitter is now, like, they just present shit to you and it's supposed to piss you off. Somehow I'm supposed to be pissed off that Jamie Presley is doing OnlyFans, but the fact that she's 48 or whatever she is, but in the dream she would have been like, and it wasn't her. So I'm just making a comparison, or like this lady named Jamie King, who stopped acting a long time ago, but again, like sort of around 25-ish, And so we started to do that. But then, this is a pattern with me. And I woke up, so it didn't really happen, And it just sort of started. And that's happened to me with other things. I don't know if other people have that happen to them. But it went, after I stopped smoking a long time ago, I remember that I used to have dreams. Smoking has been the hardest thing I've ever stopped, If somebody could say, you can never have a drink again, by the way, but the good news is you can smoke. and you're not going to have to worry about, any ill health effects or whatever. I would take the smoking. So anyway, but what I was going to say was, I remember after I stopped smoking, I would have dreams where I was lighting up, and before I could even take a drag, I would wake up. I'm thinking about the weird looking tall guy in Ghost, and how he was dead. This doesn't make sense to me in my conception of the afterlife, but like, he was a ghost and he really, really missed smoking. And I think something kind of similar would happen with him, where like he was a ghost, so he couldn't physically do that anymore. But that would be my dreams, where I would sort of almost smoke a cigarette, but really I wasn't allowed to. And then I would wake up and think like, well, but that's like real life, so why in my dreams I'm just torturing myself again? Like, it was strange to me that I would dream that way. But anyway, yeah, I just felt like recording that. But anyway, have a nice day. Thanks for listening.